Okay, so can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm Susanna, and this is my first time speaking at the React meetup. And so a little bit about myself. I'm currently a software developer at CNN, and we are full stack, but for our team, we actually 80% of our time work with React and with Node and Webpack, and GraphQL. And so I actually to give you a little bit about my background, so I did engineering in college, and my first job out of college was also as a software developer, front-end developer, but that was quite a while back, like 10 years ago. So back then the landscape was completely different. We were using a library, a Java library to do front-end stuff. That was Google Web Toolkit. So yeah, so yeah, that kind of obviously got eliminated, and afterwards I actually went on to become an architect, but not architect in the software development sense, but architect in designing like chairs and offices like where you are now. So I was an architect for the past almost 8 years, and while I was an architect, there were actually a lot of problems within architecture that we solve with code as well. Like for example, your facade panels, they're all very irregular, thousands and thousands of panels. How we optimize data for that. So I had a lot of fun as an architect, and I actually had another talk, but in architecture, about how we solve problems on architecture. So if you guys are interested in how to coding in 3D environments, then that video is also on YouTube. And but I decided that coding as an occupation is still my passion, and then I recently switched back into doing software development, and oh boy, the software development world is so different right now, and and especially you would not imagine JavaScript would actually take over. So yeah, it's very interesting times right now for software development. So the title that Greta introduced was a bit too ambitious, because I don't think I can actually tell you how to really work to your advantage yet. But for me right now, I think the best way to really know how to handle these very, very powerful stack is to basically deal with learn from your errors. That's actually what I do every day, and that's how and I guess that's the best way to learn development as well. So in researching for how to do this talk, so I was just procrastinating and Googling bees online, and then I came across Cerberus. So do we have any Greek here that? Oh, okay. So then okay, my knowledge is limited to Wikipedia. So yeah, it would be great if someone knows more about Cerberus to correct me. But from what I know, Cerberus is this three-headed dog that guards the underworld. In Greek mythology, that it basically stops the living people from entering the underworld, and dead people from escaping the underworld. So I was looking at this statement. I'm like, it's actually a little bit I can kind of relate that to software development in a way that how GraphQL with React and Webpack, these are actually tools to kind of help you control and safeguard your information in a much more effective way. And further on, I was just reading further on about Cerberus, and I came across this painting about the adoption of I forgot the name, it's a Greek word, but about this goddess, and I was looking at this picture. I was like, this is actually quite relatable to our everyday life of working as a developer in at least in my companies. We are a media company, and so so we have all these tools as the three-headed dog, and then we are the software developer is kind of the guy who's taming the dog, making sure there are no errors, it doesn't go all crazy, and everything works. And then you have all these upper people, you have the product managers, you have the project managers up there, who's just kind of making sure oh, these are the new features that you have to do, and while you're just busy taming the dog, and while putting in new features and so on. And also the person on the boat is obviously the the users, the people who are browsing on the internet, trying to access all the information in the underworld. By the way, the underworld, the guy who's taming the dog is kind of more like what our team does, more like as a front-end mode, but the back-end, obviously the underworld is managed by all the back-end developers, which is it's a completely different crazy world as well. So I work at CNN, and we are a very actually our team is quite interesting in the sense that so CNN is obviously a very huge corporation, and it's mostly based in America. But the team in London, we are a small development team that mainly works on travel and style, and we work with basically the React stack, and we use GraphQL to handle all our queries, and we of course we use Webpack to bundle everything and do all our variable polyfills and so on. And of course there's a lot of other technologies that we use. For example, we use CSS modules and so on, but if you're interested, we can talk further about after this talk. But okay, so my talk today might be the content that I'm going to talk about today might be too introductory for some of you guys, because basically I wasn't too sure about how deep of understanding of React of you guys are, but then if it's actually something that you guys know, then well, it won't be like this. Is actually a very small talk. So and also please give me some feedback, because I'm also practicing for my talk for React Fest. So yeah, I'm quite nervous. Yeah. So actually this era that I'm going to talk about is actually the first era that I ever had when I was building my React app at work, and I felt that it might resonate with some of you. So this is just a very, very small, of course I didn't include the entire component, but then I implemented this. This is supposed to be a button on a page that would continuously load elements, that you will have a button at the end that you would click it and then you will load more. But there is a very fundamental error in this. Yes.
You're calling function instead of binary.
Yes, you're very right, and obviously we have a lot of people who have a wealth of knowledge about React. But then, well, I'm specifically talking this up because, as before, when you develop with HTML, you invoke the functions, and this is actually the first mistake that I had, and then actually obviously I encountered. Problems in my app, because what happens is basically you get yourself in, because actually this app, I run this app, and then I was like, oh, okay, logic-wise, of course, I didn't know about the invoke function. I was like, oh, it should be right, you click and you invoke that function, and then obviously it gets you into this infinite loop. And then just basically what happened was whoa, my data all keeps I have about 1,000 articles, and it just keeps loading. I'm like, whoa, is my app that fast, or but then it just but and then actually what I did is I just basically googled up the specs, and it's actually a very obvious answer, and there actually are three, and I realized there's actually three ways to do this, and the first way is of course you actually basically pass in a arrow function within the onClick, and so basically this will still bind all the data within this component, and then you just invoke this function. And then secondly, and this is actually what eventually my team really recommends doing this, is to basically bind everything in the constructor. Huh? Okay.
Yeah. The arrow function is better.
Oh.
Yeah, bindings are bad for performance.
Ah, okay.
Let's leave the discussion.
Yeah, we can. No, this is great, because actually my talk wasn't meant to really preach or teach anything, but it's just mainly it was more hoping to engage in discussion Yeah, or more like a forum kind of thing. And yeah, and obviously the third solution is to basically like what you pass in is also like an arrow function, and then you just pass in that. But yeah, on the docs, React doesn't recommend this, and because they said it's, they haven't exactly explained why, but then they said it's not like a stabilized feature. And okay, so this is actually the last slide, and what I'm going to talk about this era is going to be when talking React Fest, because yeah, so this is one error that actually in one of our bug tickets before, and this component was mainly to implement so we had something like a menu, which is like an overlay, so you click the header and there is a menu that pops up, and then but then let's say you scroll like at a certain let's say 1,500 pixels down in your article, and you click the header and then you invoke a menu, and let's say it's like, no, I want to go back to the article, and you click close, it should go back to, so it should basically store your scroll position to go back to that position. But then, so we implemented this, but then there is something also like a hidden bug that that would cause it not to work. So it also took us some time to debug that, but then yeah, but I'm not gonna go through this solution or how we like or how we like fix it. But then yeah, I would like share it. Maybe I will share it on React Fest, or maybe also if you guys are not in React Fest, maybe I'll talk to Greta, and then I can do a small like, how we solved it kind of thing in the next meetup. Yeah. So yeah, so this is my talk. My talk is a very small, lightning 10-minute talk. Yeah, and in the meantime, do you guys have questions? Yes.
GraphQL, right? What were you using before that? So I wanted to learn quite a bit about GraphQL.
Yeah.
I know that it's kind of a REST replacer. I use REST quite a bit. Have you used REST before, and how do you compare the two? And what sort of pains does GraphQL use?
Yeah, sure. Well, I haven't used REST before, so I can just only tell you my understanding of GraphQL. So when we use GraphQL here, we use it with Apollo client. So Apollo client is kind of it gives you the higher order component to query all the data. And so I wouldn't say like GraphQL is kind of just like a layer on top of whatever database that you have, like either it could be a MongoDB database and so on. So yes, exactly. So it's basically something that you can set a schema and resolvers for how you want to process the data. But it's just simply that. It's not, I don't think it can replace REST. And for us, we use it mainly because it's just, for us, it's just much more straightforward because our CNN has a very, very complicated architecture behind. And the fastest way for us to integrate that into React is to use GraphQL. So that's why we use GraphQL. And so far, our experience with GraphQL has been great. Like once you have your schema set up and everything, and you can kind of keep your queries in a very structured way in React as well. So yeah. And it's also very easy, very straightforward to pick up. Like when you read the queries, it really represents the data itself. Yeah. Oh.
Well, I just wanted to say the error.
Huh?
I just wanted to say the error that
yeah, like.
I was just saying that the state, right?
Yeah. So in the component, we'll receive props. There, yeah. Okay. Well, we can talk later, or if not, you can also tell us. Yeah.
Anyone have questions?
You mentioned Webpack in the beginning.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the difficulties you had with Webpack.
Yeah, so yeah, that's actually a very good question, and I didn't talk anything about Webpack because with Webpack errors, there's just way too many, and I don't want to talk about it before like I can really go like too deep into it, because Webpack is just, it's really powerful, but yeah, I kind of felt like it could be done in a more clear way for a lot of people to start. So one of the biggest errors that I keep having was how to integrate that with Babel, because Babel, like we don't put Babel in the Webpack config, but we separate that out. But then we actually have a lot of problems, like, you know, in choosing the right versions of Babel to use in integrating our stack, and also with CSS modules. And so like okay, I'm not the one who set it up. So like it's just before one of the first tasks for me to when I joined CNN was to kind of set up Webpack on my own, and also with CSS modules. And yeah, that was one of the biggest challenge I have. Yeah, and especially more like before I had like another biggest problem I had was setting up hot reloading with Webpack, and okay, that was about 6 months ago, so I kind of forgot the error, because once you set up, you just don't want to touch it. But that's not the right mindset. So yeah, but yeah, that's a very good question, and if I dig further, I might include a little bit in the React Fest talk here.
I wanted to mention that the bind, as you said, that is more performant actually. I think there is not more performant the other one. I think that Bubble is actually doing a bind when you write an arrow function. So in the end, the arrow function will be less performant because it's also binded.
Yeah, bind the function. She
After,
was right,
after
actually.
going through Bubble, actually does a bind. So Bubble actually converts the arrow function into a binded function because.
No, but she was right, actually. It's bad in performance if you use bind in render, but not if you use it in the constructor. Instead, like the arrow function will less performant. Check the React.
Basically, Susanna's solution is correct.
Well, at least from what we know, we use bind in all the constructors as a best practice, because sometimes you just forget like to bind in arrow function. So that's why we put everything in a constructor. We haven't tested performance-wise, but it's actually maybe something we worth to explore. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.